live from the Telesur English headquarters in Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I am Soini Gray. We begin in the Dominican Republic, where delegations from the Venezuelan government and the opposition are into a second day of talks to address the political and economic conflict in the country. Hopes have been high of a final agreement in this fifth round of the dialogue. The opposition delegation has raised concerns over the presidential election announced for the coming months, but the leader of the government team said they're making progress on the outstanding issues.
We have been working on items that can bring together the opposition and the government of Nicolás Maduro on electoral guarantees, the rejection of sanctions against Venezuela, the Truth Commission, the recognition of National Constituent Assembly, as well as the creation of a social and economic commission to follow up on what we have discussed. It's a great accomplishment of President Nicolás Maduro and all of Men of Peace. We have contributed to this dialogue process called by the President a year and a half ago. I am very hopeful for all the effort and work we have done. I recognize the role of the opposition, who has sat down to talk, in spite of the profound pressures that have been subjected to on social media, through the news, and by extremist groups in Miami and Venezuela.
For the latest on the talks and the agreements to be reached, we go to our correspondent, Madeline Garcia, in Santo Domingo.
The lead government negotiator, Jorge Rodriguez, recognized the Venezuelan opposition for being part of the negotiations, despite pressures not to attend. Rodriguez said the topics being discussed are electoral guarantees, the rejection of economic sanctions and the blockade against Venezuela, the Truth Commission, the recognition of the National Constituent Assembly, and a step back from the National Assembly's situation of contempt of the Supreme Court, as well as the creation of a political, social, and economic commission to accompany the dialogue process. The most pressing matter is the date of the upcoming presidential elections, which was announced by the National Constituent Assembly to be held before April 30th. These are the most important topics that are being debated. We were able to be inside the meeting just moments before the talks began between both sides. Yesterday, they met in separate teams to discuss specific topics for about 6 hours. And the government of the Dominican Republic announced they had agreed to continue talks today. Since 9 a.m. this morning, representatives from both sides arrived, and they're now sitting down at the same table, where on one side is President Danilo Medina, former Spanish Prime Minister José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, and the Foreign Minister. In front of them, on the one side is the government of Venezuela, and on the other side, the opposition. And opposite them are the international observers. They began to put forward these issues today, and based on previous talks, they are hopeful of a positive result. The Venezuelan government delegation is very optimistic about this and will bring you more details of this as it happens.
We thank Madeline Garcia for that report. The president of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, has announced he suspended peace talks with the country's largest remaining guerrilla group, the National Liberation Army, ELN, which were taking place in Ecuador. The decision appears to be linked to the bombings of police stations in northern Colombia, which left 7 policemen dead and 45 wounded over the weekend. A bilateral ceasefire ended earlier this month after the ELN accused the government of failing to meet its commitments. And in a few hours' time, we expect the ELN's chief negotiator, Pablo Beltran, to talk exclusively to Telesur here in Quito about his organization's response to government suspension of the peace talks. We'll bring you that in our evening news bulletin. In less than 6 days, more than 13 million Ecuadorians will vote in the national referendum. In this report, we take a look at how the campaign is shaping up.
The National Electoral Council evaluates the campaign period prior to the referendum. Voters will have to choose yes or no to the government's proposal.
The electoral campaign has been developing as normal, despite some isolated acts that are typical in any electoral process. Ecuador is living in a peaceful environment.
The National Electoral Council is readying all of the transmission and reception systems to carry out the process. They've already done 3 simulations nationwide. There are many who will begin early voting.
Inmates between women and men all over the country in 40 detention centers on 20 provinces will begin the voting, and then, on the 2nd of February, the House voting will continue, also on the 24 provinces.
36 political and social organizations that promote the yes option are intensifying their activities. They are using all the spaces that they can to get them near the government.
We are all supporting the referendum, no matter what political party we belong. We are convinced that this referendum is good for Ecuador. Important moments are ahead of us.
Meanwhile, throughout the country, social organizations are promoting the no option, with former President Rafael Correa. His allies back his option, not only for his campaign actions, but for the legacy he left during his administration.
We have been going door to door, and the support is extraordinary. They will never take away the people's love for Rafael Correa. 10 years of transformation will not end with 8 months of lies.
This new electoral process that Ecuadorians will live this next Sunday will be overseen by international electoral organizations like UNIORE, the OAS, AWEB, USAN, and 150 observers.
Grenada is on an election footing as Prime Minister Keith Mitchell has announced general elections for March 13th. The date is a significant one for Grenadians because on that day in 1979, Maurice Bishop overthrew the government, marking the start of the Grenadian Revolution. Mitchell has been Prime Minister since 2013 and he's hoping to retain power. He will be challenged for that position by the National Democratic Congress of Grenada. U.S. President Donald Trump delivers his first State of the Union address on Tuesday night. He is expected to make immigration a key focus of his speech, pitching a plan that will put almost 2 million people on the path to U.S. citizenship. In exchange, Trump gets $25 billion trust fund to build his wall and tighten controls at U.S. ports of entry. However, it could be a hard sell because the Democrats aren't buying it.
Immigration, for many years, many years, they've been talking immigration. They never got anything done. We're going to get something done, we hope.
For more on what to expect, let's bring in our U.S. correspondent, Jorge Gestoso, who joins us live from Washington, D.C.
4 issues are going to be addressed by President Trump in his first State of the Union address. We're talking economy and jobs, immigration, infrastructure, and national security. But the most important issue is that he's facing a very divided country, and the key element that is running all around Washington at this time, and it's going to be present this evening in his speech, is the enormous warfare that has been launched between Republicans and Democrats, because the House of Representatives Intelligence Committee just voted last night to release a very confidential memorandum written by Republicans that are questioning the independence of certain members of the FBI and the Justice Department, trying to create the perception that the investigation about Russiagate that could involve President Trump has been tainted from the beginning. There's another memo that the Democrats have written precisely rebuking that demo of the Republicans, but that Republican memorandum has not been approved to be released. What is the situation? That now that memo that is sparkling great anger in the community, not only in the political community, but in general here in Washington, has been sent to the desk of the President of the United States. Donald Trump has 5 days to review if it's going to be released publicly or not. But the bottom line is President Trump is arriving this evening to do the State of the Union address in the middle of an incredible controversy if his campaign has been tainted by this supposedly obstruction of justice and or collusion with the Russians to influencing the 2016 election. That is the real key issue and not the issues that is going to be addressed this evening.
Thank you so much for that report, Jorge Gestoso. I have one question. So that was our Washington correspondent, Jorge Gestoso. U.S. Christian groups protested on Monday outside the U.S. Embassy in Honduras against Washington's recognition of President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Allegations of corruption and electoral fraud recently sparked deadly protests in the country. This delegation of Christians is asking the U.S. government to withdraw its support for President Hernandez, who was sworn in on Saturday, and investigate violence during the anti-government protests. Let's take a short break now. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. The legal team of former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has submitted a petition to the United Nations Human Rights Committee, claiming further evidence of abuses by the Brazilian justice system. The petition points out the unfairness and bias of the court ruling that confirmed Lula's conviction. In particular, it highlights that judges wrote their verdicts before hearing the defense's oral submission. Lula, who was convicted last year of corruption, has said he is open to being investigated in a fair manner. The leading candidate for Mexico's presidential election says he will remove immunity for the president of the country if he's elected in July. Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador of the left-wing Morena Party was introducing the people he would appoint to top judicial posts. He says he is determined to root out official corruption and graft.
We will propose a legal reform to suppress immunity and privileges, including changing Article 108 of the Constitution to allow the president to be judged for the crimes of corruption and violation of political electoral rights.
In Argentina, the mothers of Plaza de Mayo say they're being politically persecuted. This after a judge ordered their main offices to be raided. Hundreds of supporters and members of the human rights organization blocked the search. The police also tried to shut down the premises. The organization's lawyers said this measure was illegal and that they were never notified of it.
What they're clearly trying to do is to stigmatize the mothers of Plaza de Mayo. They want a picture of them with the police on the door. We cannot know if the police is bringing something to the premises or taking something. We don't have control of this situation. But this is just part of the government's plan to stigmatize human rights organizations and the mothers of Plaza de Mayo.
Bolivia's cable car system has been included in the Guinness World Records for 2018 as the largest in the world. President Evo Morales' initiative opened the system in 2014. The system connects a total of 30 kilometers between La Paz and El Alto. The cable car system carries more than 150,000 passengers a day and hopes to reach 300,000 once all the stations are fully built. The panoramic view of the Andes can also be enjoyed. And we'll take another short break. Join us after this look at what our multimedia team is reporting. Welcome back. Spain's ambassador to Venezuela, Jesus Silva Fernandez, has left Caracas. Fernandez flew out on Monday, just days after the Venezuelan government declared him persona non grata and gave him 72 hours to leave. The Venezuelan government says the move was prompted by what it called Spain's aggressions 3 days earlier. The EU announced new sanctions against 7 senior Venezuelan officials, including asset freezes and travel bans. Protests broke out on the streets of Barcelona after a crucial vote to reappoint ousted Catalonian President Carles Puigdemont was delayed. The decision drew angry demonstrations from Puigdemont's Together for Catalonia grouping and a smaller separatist party known as the CUP. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the regional parliaments, with some wearing masks of Puigdemont's face. The Catalan Parliament Speaker, Roger Torrent, says the vote for a new regional head has been postponed until Carles Puigdemont can return from Brussels.
Ni la vicepresidenta Soraya,
nor the Deputy Prime Minister Soraya, neither the Constitutional Court, will decide who will become Catalan president. Nor Deputy Prime Minister Soraya, neither the Constitutional Court will decide who becomes president. That decision lays on the members of the parliament who were democratically elected.
Now, the former leader Carles Puigdemont faces arrest the minute he steps foot in Spain for leading the secession bid. Our correspondent in Catalonia, Vincent Montagut, has more.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Saludos a todos desde Madrid. Sí, el presidente del Parlamento de Cataluña.
Catalonia's parliament speaker, Roger Torrent, postponed the swearing-in session that should have begun today, after the candidate who was proposed by the pro-independence majority is not able to take up his post since he lacks security guarantees. Let's remember that the Constitutional Court denied the swearing-in of Carles Puigdemont from Brussels and only allowed him to take his post if he was present in the parliament with a judicial authorization, conditions that Torrent has defined as unacceptable and a fraud, and has asked the parliament to prepare allegations to use in his defense. Torrent has also said that Puigdemont has all the right in the world to be sworn in as president because he has the support of the parliament majority. Despite the threats he could receive, he is willing to defend the parliament members. So the session is postponed. Carles Puigdemont continues to be the proposed candidate by the majority supporting independence, and we enter another institutional blockade. That is all for now.
We thank Vincent Montagut for that report. Mahatma Gandhi fought throughout his life for freedom and peace. His murder on January 30th, 1948 shocked the entire world. Let's learn more about his life in the next report.
India's greatest leader and social reformer, Mahatma Gandhi, was fundamental for the country's independence from the British. Thanks to his philosophy and non-violent approach, Gandhi became a mass leader, a guide who saw India not only as an independent state, but as a country free from discrimination. At a time when India was divided by religion, different languages and the caste system, it was Gandhi who brought people together and motivated them to fight against British colonialism. In particular, Gandhi was committed to eliminating the concept of untouchability from society. He tried to give the lowest caste more dignity by raising their status and changing their name from Dalits to Harijans, meaning God's people. In 1933, during a tour across India, he asked Hindus to open places previously forbidden to Dalits, such as temples and village wells. Ironically, it was his secular ideology and his respect for all religions that eventually cost him his life. He was murdered in 1948 by Nathuram Godse. Nathuram was a part of right-wing extremists that saw Gandhi as the cause of its division into India and Pakistan. Gandhi fought for the untouchables cause until the end, but century-old traditions in India were too deep-rooted to be changed in just a lifetime. Despite caste discrimination being banned in 1947 with the achievement of India's independence, untouchables still face discrimination, exclusion, and extreme poverty today. Last year, for instance, marked the deadliest year for minority groups with 11 people killed on apparent religious and caste grounds. Gandhi is long gone, but caste discrimination remains an unfinished war in India.
The historic Cuban Cultural Association Casa de las Américas has won the prestigious Jaime Torres Bodet Award in Social Science, Humanity and Art. The distinction is awarded by UNESCO and the Autonomous University of Mexico.
Poet and essayist Roberto Fernández Retamar received the award on behalf of Casa de las Américas. The 2017 winner was chosen by a distinguished international jury.
Casa de las Américas has been a vital institution in the construction of our America, building identity and a sense of brotherhood and progress.
The Jaime Torres Bodet Award honors the Mexican poet, writer, and diplomat, who was also one of UNESCO's founders and director generals.
This award is not just about geographical unity. It is also about the strength of the Americas. We want countries to see UNESCO and this award as a way of acknowledging the cultural rights of the people. I think it reflects what Cuba has done for liberty and intellectual relations.
Casa de las Américas was founded in 1959, just 4 months after the victory of the Cuban Revolution, by Aide Santa Maria. Since then, the institution has opened its doors to the world's most prominent intellectuals, who visited the islands to experience the role of the revolution in culture.
After receiving this award, we want to say thank you to the workers of this house and also of those in many other countries who, as Aide Santa Maria used to say, make the Bolivarian, Martiano, and Fidelista dream possible.
Casa de las Américas promotes the work of writers, artists, and social scientists in Latin America and the Caribbean. According to UNESCO, the house was turned into one of the most prestigious institutions of its kind in the region.
And the Casa de las Américas has just made its own awards for literature across the region in the category for Caribbean literature in English and Creole. 2 writers from Barbados and 1 from St. Vincent and the Grenadines took the awards. We are going to be joined... Okay, we were supposed to be joined by one of the judges, Jacob Ross from Grenada, who currently lives in Britain. We're having some technical issues with that interview, so we should try and go to him in a little bit. So in lieu of that, we're going to move on to another story as we try and sort out that connection. Right? So there is a natural nursery for hammerhead sharks right here in our backyard in Ecuador. Researchers have discovered what appears to be a million-year-old home for baby sharks in the Galapagos Islands.
Tucked away in the mangrove swamps and reefs of the Galapagos Islands is a home for newborn hammerheads. A group of Ecuadorian scientists discovered the nursery on Santa Cruz, one of the main islands on the archipelago. This is a particularly important discovery because the hammerheads are under threat.
Sharks are on the red list, mainly because they are threatened by overfishing. The hammerhead shark is one of the most threatened. It's in critical danger. Its population worldwide has declined by over 90%.
Porque sus poblaciones a nivel mundial han declinado en más del 90%, ¿no?
The Galapagos Sanctuary offers a safe zone for the babies until they're about 2 and able to fend for themselves, often traveling thousands of kilometers in search of food. Scientists are hoping this find will help them track, study, and understand the evolution of the hammerhead shark.
Cuando cae el tiburón, inmediatamente los subimos a bordo.
The sharks need a continuous flow of water so they don't die. Then we hold it, we take biometric data, we mark the shark, we weigh it, we take the necessary measurements, and we release it. All this in less than 2 minutes.
Y luego lo liberamos, ¿no? Esto en menos de 2 minutos.
The hammerhead shark can grow as long as 3 meters, live for up to 50 years, and weigh a staggering 580 kilograms.
Okay, so we hope to reconnect with Jacob Ross in a later newscast, but other news at the moment. Driving a car with a virtual headset on may sound somewhat risky, but that might be our new reality. French carmaker Renault has integrated the autonomous car with virtual reality. So instead of a boring motorway, drivers will see themselves in the country, a futuristic city, or some other universe. But the Symbio's demo car promises to make all the necessary stops from traffic lights to toll gates. This prototype is a level 4 on the autonomy scale, 1 level short of 0 human intervention. And with that techie report, we've come to the end of this daily news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesiotv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I am Sweeney Gray. Thank you so much for watching.